Okay. Show me.
Hi there guys, welcome back to the Toshi channel, thank you very much for tuning in. And what on earth am I showing you today? Well, you've seen the title of the video, of course. I'm gonna show you an FPV car, an FPV truck. Now this is something I've been wanting to do for years actually, for well, maybe even a decade. Well, an FPV car of any sorts. And in this particular instance I had a couple of requirements for the FPV car. First of all, the car needs to look scale from the outside, right? So it should look like a realistic car. Second thing, the FPV system, the FPV setup, should be mostly hidden from view. So the car again should still look realistic with the FPV system on it. And the third thing was that I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. See, I didn't know if I'd like this. By now I do. This is really a fun, different perspective on the world, if you will. It's also relaxing, but it's fun to drive around. And okay, so but I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on my first project. I'll probably do more FPV car projects, but this is the first one I'm doing. And in this video I'll show you how I've made this FPV car, and I'll give you some demonstrations. Well, you are at this point in the video looking at a demonstration. At the bottom left you see my FPV view, so what I see in my FPV goggle. And I also have a full HD camera mounted on the car, as you can see. Obviously you don't need the full HD camera, but obviously for YouTube purposes it's nice to also show a full HD version of the video. So yeah, again I'm gonna show you what components I've used, how I built this FPV car, and I'm gonna tell you what my experiences are with this setup. So let me show you what I've used and how I've built things. And here it is, my first FPV car, truck, wagon, military scaler thing. And as you can see, you can't really tell that it's an FPV car, at least not from here. If I turn it around, you'll be able to see the FPV transmitter over here, but it's still pretty much under the radar, right? Oh, and of course there's an FPV camera as well, which is hidden in the cabin of the car. So it definitely provides for a realistic ride. The viewing position is more or less exactly where you'd sit in the real car. Slightly forwards of that, but more or less very much realistic. Now, there are links to all components I've used in the description of this video. As you'll see, this car is super duper cheap. Yeah, and still it looks very well scale. Detailed. It has non-breakable mirrors, as you can see, which is nice because you will crash, especially when you ride it FPV. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have the FPV camera in the cabin. If you have a rollover, the FPV camera won't get damaged. Right? Makes sense, I hope. This over here, this compartment is something I built myself. I designed it and I 3D printed it because I wanted to run a bigger LiPo. I'm running a 3000 milliamp hour 2S LiPo, which is mostly for weight, so traction. This is, however, still a 6-wheel drive car. It is also very much a toy grade car. Let's not kid around. This is a toy grade. And I was pleasantly surprised by it because everything is screwed together, so not glued together, which makes it easy to work on. For instance, the windshield, I've taken that out, but it's screwed in, not glued in, so I can easily put it back in if I'd want to. But that acrylic does make the view, the FPV view, weird, psychedelic. So yeah. Okay, so the FPV setup I'm using is some parts that I had in the parts bin. So for me that didn't cost anything. Actually, well, if you have a look in the description, this is an eSheen VTX and this is an FXT camera, micro camera. Quite a good setup, but you can get away with lesser setups. This is actually more than the cost of the car if you'd have to buy it. But maybe you have a VTX, a spare or an older VTX laying around. Do be mindful, by the way, that you don't set your VTX up higher than 25 milliwatts, because you won't have a lot of airflow, right? So it'll tend to get hot. Yeah, and okay, so how did I hook this up? My intention with this setup is that I can easily transfer the entire FPV setup from car to car, right? Maybe I want to get myself a more upscale, a better driving scaler in the future. So here is my FPV setup. On your left you see that FXT camera and on the right that eSheen VTX. And that eSheen VTX actually came with the red GST connector to power the setup. And I actually power the entire setup from that one GST connector, and that works. And on airplanes or quadcopters this might sometimes provide some interference. In cars, at least not in this car, you won't see interference. This is a low power setup. So I'm running the entire FPV setup you see here from the driving LiPo. I don't have a separate LiPo for the FPV setup, even though I could. So if, for instance, you'd end up seeing interference in your FPV setup, just use a separate LiPo to power your FPV setup, a small 2S LiPo, 3S LiPo, and you'll be rid of that interference most likely. Okay, next thing I did was do a first test run. I simply slapped the entire FPV setup on the roof of the car, as you can see here. And what you can also see is that I printed a small 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter slab of plastic on which I glued the camera down, as you can see. And I am using silicone adhesives, and if you are not familiar with that, these are reusable adhesives, very useful for things like this. And I'll have a link in the top right to a video I did about that stuff. Again, very useful, and it's cheap as well. And here is a DVR recording. So this is what I recorded with my FPV goggle. And this is a first dry run, a first test run. I'm simply driving the car on a grass field to see what that looks like, if it's not too bumpy, if you can see anything at all. And well, to my surprise, it's better than I had expected, really. It does look bumpy. To you it will definitely look very bumpy. In the goggle it's somehow less bumpy. It's very drivable actually. And the next thing I did was mount the FPV camera in the cabin. Very simple. The cabin is screwed down with 4 screws, I think. And again, the windscreen comes off with 2 screws, and that's about it. And yeah, I used that silicone, a slab of silicone adhesive to mount the FPV camera, and that makes it easy to remove it again. It also acts as a vibration dampener. and I'm not sure if that's needed, but it works. So yeah. And here is a second test DVR recording I did, and this is with the FPV camera in the cabin. I didn't know what that would look like if you could actually see anything. You do see a little bit of the inside of the car on the top of the FPV image. Doesn't bother me, and you'll obviously see the hood of the car, of the truck, which to me seems very realistic, right? I did not, and I'll probably have questions about that, but I did not add a servo. These kinds of trucks are very much toy grade, right? And they use 5-wire servos, so you can't just go ahead and add a servo to pan and tilt your FPV camera. I didn't really want to either. I wanted this one to be very, very simple, and in case you want to experiment with an FPV car, again, this is super duper simple, right? You just have to provide power to your FPV setup and mount it somehow. You can use hot glue to mount the entire FPV setup, and that'll work just fine. So guys, there you have it, my first FPV car, truck, military scaler thing, and to be honest, I should have done this before. I really enjoy FPV riding this car, and it's not fast, obviously, but it gives you a completely different perspective on things, and yeah, it's the magic of RC always to me, but I'm having fun with this setup. So that's about it. I'm probably gonna do more FPV cars, and if you are left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. For now, I want to thank you for watching and catch you on the next video. Bye bye.